Hello there. My name is Rick, and I'm your host today for another episode of Gaby's Cheating Stories. If you like our stories, please subscribe. It only takes 1 second. And comment for what country are you watching us. Thank you. Now let's start. As a man, to be able to create a family and be a provider, and a father are one of the best feelings in the world. Today's story talks about this and how it can affect the future of a perfect relationship when it is hard to achieve it. Let's start. That day, the bustling streets of downtown Chicago were alive with the hum of city life. Among the throngs of people, Ulyss, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a quiet demeanor, was making his way to his favorite coffee shop. He had just finished a long shift at the hospital where he worked as a nurse. His job was demanding, but he found solace in the routine of his daily life. As he entered the coffee shop, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped him, and he felt a sense of calm wash over him. Lisa, on the other hand, was a vibrant and ambitious woman who had recently moved to the city to pursue her career in marketing. She had a knack for creativity and a passion for storytelling, which made her excel in her field. That particular afternoon, she was meeting a client at the same coffee shop Ulyss frequented. As she waited for her client, she noticed Ulyss sitting alone, engrossed in a book. There was something about his focused expression that intrigued her. Their eyes met briefly, and Lisa felt a sudden, inexplicable connection. She decided to approach him, and with a warm smile, she introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Lisa. I couldn't help but notice you're reading one of my favorite books," she said, pointing to the novel in his hands. Ulyss looked up, slightly startled but pleased by her boldness. "I'm Ulyss," he replied, his voice calm and steady. "It's a great book. I'm rereading it for the 3rd time." They began to talk, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. They discovered they had a lot in common, from their love for literature to their shared passion for helping others. Ulyss was captivated by Lisa's energy and enthusiasm, while Lisa found Ulyss's quiet strength and intelligence deeply attractive. By the end of their conversation, they had exchanged numbers and made plans to meet again. As they parted ways, both Ulyss and Lisa felt a sense of excitement they hadn't experienced in a long time. They didn't know it yet, but that chance encounter in the coffee shop would mark the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. Over the next few months, Ulyss and Lisa's relationship blossomed. They spent countless hours together, exploring the city, sharing meals, and delving into deep conversations about their dreams and aspirations. Ulyss admired Lisa's determination and creativity, while Lisa was drawn to Ulyss's kindness and unwavering support. They complemented each other in ways they hadn't thought possible. Ulyss's job at the hospital was demanding, but he found solace in Lisa's company. She, in turn, found inspiration in his dedication to his work. Lisa's career in marketing was thriving, and she often shared her projects with Ulyss, who was always eager to listen and offer his thoughts. Their relationship was built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding, and they quickly became each other's biggest cheerleaders. As their bond grew stronger, they began to talk about their future together. Both Ulyss and Lisa had always wanted a family, and they dreamed of having children who would inherit their values and passions. They discussed their plans openly, and it wasn't long before they decided to take the next step in their relationship. One evening, after a romantic dinner at their favorite restaurant, Ulyss got down on one knee and proposed to Lisa. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she said yes. The following months were a whirlwind of wedding planning, and their friends and families were thrilled for them. The day of their wedding was perfect, filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a bright future together. As they exchanged vows, Ulyss and Lisa felt a deep sense of commitment and hope. They were ready to build a life together, filled with love, adventure, and the family they had always dreamed of. The first few years of Euless and Lisa's marriage were a time of growth and discovery. They settled into a comfortable routine, balancing their careers with their life together. Euless continued to work at the hospital, where he was respected by his colleagues and patients alike. Lisa's career in marketing was flourishing, and she was quickly climbing the corporate ladder. They were a power couple, admired by their friends and family for their dedication to each other and their careers. Despite their busy schedules, Euless and Lisa made it a priority to spend quality time together. They enjoyed weekend getaways, exploring new cities, and trying out new restaurants. They also shared a love for the outdoors, often going on hikes and camping trips. These moments allowed them to reconnect and strengthen their bond, even amidst the chaos of their daily lives. As they approached their third year of marriage, Euless and Lisa began to discuss starting a family. They had always wanted children, and they felt ready to take on the challenges and joys of parenthood. They talked about their hopes and fears, and they were both excited about the prospect of becoming parents. They decided to start trying for a baby, confident that it would happen naturally. However, as the months passed, Lisa didn't get pregnant. At first, they didn't think much of it, assuming it was just a matter of time. But as more time went by without any success, they began to feel a sense of unease. They decided to consult a doctor who advised them to keep trying and to be patient. Euless and Lisa remained hopeful, but the uncertainty began to weigh on them. Despite the challenges, Euless and Lisa's love for each other remained strong. They supported each other through the ups and downs, and they were determined to overcome any obstacles that came their way. Little did they know, their journey to parenthood would test their relationship in ways they never imagined.
Thank you for watching Gaby's cheating stories. Please subscribe. It just take 1 second. Thank you.
As the months turned into years, Euless and Lisa's attempts to conceive became increasingly frustrating. They tried everything from tracking Lisa's ovulation to making lifestyle changes, but nothing seemed to work. The disappointment was palpable and began to take a toll on their relationship. They found themselves having more arguments, and the stress of their situation was starting to wear them down. Lisa, in particular, felt the weight of their struggle. She had always dreamed of being a mother, and the inability to conceive made her feel like she was failing. She began to question herself, wondering if there was something wrong with her. Euless, on the other hand, tried to remain optimistic, but he too was feeling the strain. He hated seeing Lisa so upset, and he felt powerless to help her. They decided to seek the help of a fertility specialist, who ran a series of tests on both of them. The results were devastating. Euless was diagnosed with infertility. The news hit them like a ton of bricks. Euless felt a deep sense of guilt and inadequacy, while Lisa was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions, sadness, anger, and confusion. They had always assumed that if there was a problem, it would be on Lisa's side, and the revelation that it was Euless who was infertile was a shock. The diagnosis changed everything. Euless and Lisa had to confront the reality that they might never have biological children. They discussed their options, from adoption to using a sperm donor, but each possibility came with its own set of challenges and emotions. They tried to support each other, but the strain on their relationship was undeniable. The dream of having a family, which had once brought them so much hope, now seemed like an insurmountable obstacle. Despite the difficulties, Euless and Lisa remained committed to each other. They knew that their love was strong, and they were determined to find a way forward. But as the pressure mounted, cracks began to form in their relationship, and they found themselves drifting apart. The years of trying to conceive had taken a toll on Euless and Lisa's relationship. The once strong bond between them was now frayed, and they found themselves growing increasingly distant. Euless, burdened by guilt and feelings of inadequacy, withdrew into himself. He threw himself into his work, spending long hours at the hospital to avoid facing the reality of his situation at home. Lisa, on the other hand, felt isolated and unsupported. She longed for connection they once had, but it seemed like Euless was slipping further away. Their conversations became strained, and they often found themselves arguing over trivial matters. The frustration and disappointment they felt about their inability to have a child spilled over into other aspects of their relationship. They both knew they needed to find a way to reconnect, but neither knew how to bridge the growing gap between them. Lisa began to seek solace outside of her marriage. She confided in her friends and colleagues, and she found herself drawn to Bob, a co-worker who had been a friend of Eula's since childhood. Bob was kind, understanding, and always seemed to know the right thing to say. He had always been a part of their lives. But now, Lisa found herself relying on him more and more for emotional support. Eula, unaware of the growing connection between Lisa and Bob, continued to retreat into his work. He felt like he had failed Lisa, and he didn't know how to make things right. The distance between them grew, and they began to feel like strangers living under the same roof. The love that had once been the foundation of their relationship was now overshadowed by pain and resentment. As they struggled to navigate their new reality, Eula and Lisa found themselves at a crossroads. They knew they needed to make a decision about their future, but the path forward was unclear. The dream of having a family, which had once brought them so much hope, now seemed like a distant memory. And as they drifted further apart, the possibility of finding their way back to each other grew increasingly uncertain. The tension between Eula and Lisa reached a breaking point one fateful evening. Lisa had been acting distant, and Eula couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He decided to confront her, hoping to finally address the issues that had been plaguing their relationship. "Lisa, we need to talk," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of frustration and concern. Lisa, who had been avoiding the conversation, knew she couldn't put it off any longer. She took a deep breath and looked at Eula, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and sadness. "Eula, there's something I need to tell you," she began, her voice trembling. "I've been seeing someone else." The words hit Eula like a punch to the gut. He felt a wave of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak wash over him. "Who is it?" he demanded, his voice shaking with emotion. Lisa hesitated for a moment before finally admitting, "It's Bob." Eula was stunned. Bob had been his friend since childhood, and the betrayal cut deep. He couldn't believe that someone he had trusted for so long could do something like this. "How could you?" he asked, his voice filled with pain. "How could you do this to us?" Lisa tried to explain, but her words only added to Eula's anger. She told him about the emotional distance that had grown between them and how she had turned to Bob for support. But Eula couldn't see past the betrayal. He felt like his world had been shattered, and he didn't know how to move forward. The days that followed were filled with tension and heartbreak. Eula and Lisa tried to navigate the fallout of the affair, but the damage had been done. The trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship was now broken, and they both knew that things would never be the same. The revelation of Lisa's affair with Bob left Eula and Lisa's marriage in shambles. The once strong bond between them was now fractured, and they struggled to find a way forward. Eula was consumed by anger and betrayal, while Lisa was overwhelmed with guilt and regret. They tried to have conversations about what had happened, but the pain and resentment made it difficult to communicate. Eula found it hard to forgive Lisa, and he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. He had always trusted her, and the fact that she had turned to Bob, someone he considered a friend, was a blow he couldn't recover from. Lisa, on the other hand, felt like she had lost everything. She had never intended to hurt Eula, but she knew that her actions had caused irreparable damage. As the days turned into weeks, the distance between them grew. They tried to go through the motions of their daily lives, but the love that had once been the foundation of their relationship was now overshadowed by pain and resentment. They both knew that they needed to make a decision about their future, but neither was ready to face the reality of what that meant. Lisa eventually moved out of the house, leaving Eula to grapple with the emptiness that now filled their home. He threw himself into his work, trying to distract himself from the pain, but it was always there, lurking in the background. He knew that he needed to find a way to move on, but the road ahead seemed long and uncertain. Meanwhile, Lisa found herself leaning more and more on Bob for support. He had been there for her during the darkest moments of her marriage, and she found comfort in his presence. But she also knew that their relationship was built on a foundation of betrayal, and she couldn't shake the guilt that came with it. She and Bob tried to navigate their new reality, but the shadow of Euless loomed large over their relationship. The decision to divorce was a painful one for both Euless and Lisa. They had once been so deeply in love, but the betrayal and the years of struggling to conceive had taken their toll. They knew that they couldn't continue living in the shadow of their failed marriage, and they both agreed that it was time to move on. The process of divorce was fraught with emotion. They had to divide their assets, figure out living arrangements, and navigate the legal complexities of ending their marriage. It was a difficult and painful process, but they both knew it was necessary. They tried to be civil with each other, but the wounds were still fresh, and the pain of their failed marriage was always present. Euless found himself struggling to come to terms with the end of his marriage. He had always believed that he and Lisa would be together forever, and the reality of the divorce was a bitter pill to swallow. He threw himself into his work, trying to distract himself from the pain, but it was always there, lurking in the background. He knew that he needed to find a way to move on, but the road ahead seemed long and uncertain. Lisa, on the other hand, found herself in a new relationship with Bob. They had grown closer in the aftermath of her divorce, and she found comfort in his presence. But she also knew that their relationship was built on a foundation of betrayal, and she couldn't shake the guilt that came with it. She and Bob tried to navigate their new reality, but the shadow of Euless loomed large over their relationship. As the final papers were signed, Euless and Lisa both felt a sense of finality. Their marriage, which had once been filled with so much hope and promise, was now over. They both knew that they needed to find a way to move forward, but the road ahead was uncertain. The love that had once been the foundation of their relationship was now a distant memory, and they both had to find a way to rebuild their lives. In the months following the divorce, Euless and Lisa both struggled to find their footing. Euless decided to leave the country, hoping that a change of scenery would help him heal. He moved to a small town in Europe, where he could focus on himself and his career. The distance from his old life gave him the space he needed to process his emotions and begin to move on. Lisa, on the other hand, stayed in Chicago and continued her relationship with Bob. They tried to build a life together, but the shadow of Euless and the circumstances of their relationship always loomed large. Lisa found herself grappling with feelings of guilt and regret, and she often wondered if she had made the right decision. As time went on, Euless began to find a sense of peace. He threw himself into his work and found solace in the beauty of his new surroundings. He also began to explore new hobbies and interests, which helped him to rediscover himself. He knew that he would always carry the pain of his failed marriage with him, but he also knew that he had to find a way to move forward. Lisa, too, began to find a sense of closure. She and Bob worked through their issues and tried to build a life together. They knew that their relationship would always be complicated, but they were determined to make it work. Lisa also found comfort in her career and her friends, and she began to rebuild her life. As the years passed, Euless and Lisa both found a way to move on. They had both been through a lot, but they had also learned a lot about themselves and what they wanted out of life. They knew that their paths would likely never cross again, but they also knew that they had both grown from the experience. The love that had once been the foundation of their relationship was now a distant memory, but they both knew that they had to find a way to move forward. Years after their divorce, Euless and Lisa had both found a way to move on with their lives. Euless had settled into his new life in Europe, where he found a sense of peace and fulfillment. He had thrown himself into his work and had also found love again, with a woman who understood and supported him. He knew that he would always carry the pain of his failed marriage with him, but he also knew that he had found a way to move forward. Lisa, on the other hand, had married Bob and had started a family with him. They had 2 children, and Lisa found joy in being a mother. She had also continued to excel in her career, and she had found a sense of fulfillment in her new life. She knew that her relationship with Bob would always be complicated, but she was determined to make it work. As they both looked back on their lives, Euless and Lisa knew that they had both grown from the experience. They had both been through a lot, but they had also learned a lot about themselves and what they want out of life. They knew that their paths would likely never cross again, but they also knew that they had both found a way to move forward. The love that had once been the foundation of their relationship was now a distant memory, but they both knew that they had to find a way to move forward. They had both been through a lot, but they had also learned a lot about themselves and what they wanted out of life. They knew that their paths would likely never cross again, but they also knew that they had both found a way to move forward. As they both looked to the future, Euless and Lisa knew that they had both found a way to move forward. They had both been through a lot, but they had also learned a lot about themselves and what they wanted out of life. They knew that their paths would likely never cross again, but they also knew that they had both found a way to move forward. Euless had found a new sense of purpose in his work and his new relationship. He had learned to let go of the past and embrace the present. He knew that he would always carry the pain of his failed marriage with him, but he also knew that he had found a way to move forward. Lisa, too, had found a new sense of purpose in her life. She had found joy in being a mother and had continued to excel in her career. She knew that her relationship with Bob would always be complicated, but she was determined to make it work. She had learned to let go of the past and embrace the present. As they both looked to the future, Euless and Lisa knew that they had both found a way to move forward. They had both been through a lot, but they had also learned a lot about themselves and what they wanted out of life. They knew that their paths would likely never cross again, but they also knew that they had both found a way to move forward.